Hey everyone. I don't think anyone's joined yet, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and get the show started. Listen, we're going to pivot to something that, unless you were living under a rock, you probably saw on your Instagram or Twitter, specifically Twitter, maybe even YouTube feed, and you're probably confused as to why you saw a baby hippo, and it happened to take over and win the internet for like the last week or so. I'm going to start with that. So, topics for the show. Let's see. Let's go with the first one. Um, little show and tell. So let's get the clips ready. I really don't know if I'm going to be able to get into all the content. I got so many little topics planned and ready to go. Forgive me, y'all. You're gonna hate me for doing this story time. I mean, this little show and tell. But bear with me. I just have to show people because I think some people probably missed this. Let me put the fair use on before we get in trouble.
This little hippo resists the zookeeper's touch and bites down on the zookeeper's knee. Moo Deng is a playful little hippo who loves to bounce around. It often keeps its mouth open, and it must have a lot of fun every day before it can fall asleep. Even when it is asleep, it still twitches its limbs.
So I think I was on mute the whole time, but like I was just showing some like little funny pictures, some super memes that were like super funny. The Thanos one, the what else was it? Jaws. Let me try to take a look at it off screen. It was Jaws, it was Thanos, it was Alien, it was like the Moo Deng being the president of the United States. That's hilarious. I just happened to do all that with the audio off. That sucks. But I'm pivoting to the second topic. The boys, listen, boys super late to this. I just started watching the first episode. It's a fire little pilot episode, so I'm gonna start watching the show. I'm struggling to find something to watch. We didn't talk about Diddy last time. I don't really want to talk about him too much. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how everybody's copping pleas that had gone to the Diddy parties. Everybody's lowering up to try to get away from the trouble. Let me pivot away. Corrections for previous episodes. I know after I film these or do these little episodes, these little podcasts, I listen to them. And it kind of gets under my nerves. It gets under my skin when I hear myself say something incorrectly. So something I definitely said incorrectly in a previous episode was I said something about I go to psychotherapy. I think I said that in the men's panel. I'm like, no, that's completely inaccurate. I have a psychologist. There's nothing psychotherapy involved with that. But the one that got under my skin last episode was I said something like, oh, I blew a world championship. No, I didn't. We got to a world championship tournament, went 1-1 in it. But what I did blow was I blew a league championship. I think when I first started playing pool, that was all I wanted to do. Is I just wanted to, at the end of the day, when I finished playing pool, I wanted to be able to come back to a pool hall and say, hey, I was able to win a league championship here. Well, the captain before me blew a league championship playing the 5th game out of 5 games with the game on the championship on the line. And then the next year I blew a league championship. Yeah, I was torn up about it. But ever since then, we went. We were more successful than that. We went on to different tournaments. Eventually, got to Vegas, and like I said, eventually I won a solo tournament. So let's see. I think we kind of spoke about this in the previous podcast and I'm gonna dig into it a little bit more in previous and future streams about the Manosphere's lying to men, not telling them that specifically men over 40. So I'm in this too. I'm not just taking a dig at men over 40 or 50. I'm in it sort of with an asterisk on it. That men over 40, their fertility does go down. It's not a guarantee that you're gonna, you're gonna be, especially when they tell the men 40, oh, wait till you're 40, wait till you're 50 to start a family. You're really doing that 30 or 40, 30 or 20-year-old woman that you try to have a kid with, because they're all trying to go for the 20-year smoke show. You're doing that woman a disservice, because she's getting such a raw deal. She's getting bad, she's getting bad sperm, old sperm, stuff like that. So my advice, not this is not medical advice, but go get a male fertility test. I did one back in 2021. Turned out fine. Turned out actually pretty strong in some categories. And I'm actually doing maybe early next year just to see if things have changed. Let me see. I want to pivot to another little story time. Another little show and tell. So I got another clip to show. Let's see the next one. This is it's now we're gonna start cooking with gas. This one's gonna be kind of weird to watch, but it's if you know about the Manosphere, they're all weirdos. Let's see. Let me put the fair use banner on. Okay. Let me get ready to show this. Share screen. Avoid. Okay. Fair use.
Friendly bitches. That's why I tell my bitches, like I said, act deaf, dumb. When a nigga see I don't like friendly bitches. That's why I tell my bitches, like I said, act deaf, dumb, and blind. When a nigga try to holler.
Let's pause this. This is cringy as fuck. I am in no way co-signing this. I'm just saying this is how low the Manosphere really stoops to, and you got to really feel sorry for the women that they're dealing with. This is embarrassing.
That you will talk to you. You shouldn't even be responding. There should be no reason why you saying no or answering a question or, rejecting him. Even if you're rejecting him, I don't want you to do it verbally. You do it with a complete silence. That's how you reject him, with silence. A fish will never get caught if it doesn't open its mouth. You should not be talking to your next door neighbor. Why are you talking to the next door neighbor? Just because he asks you a simple ass question, you feel the need to answer it? Nah, you bugging. See, that's how your neighbors start fucking your bitch. She over to the neighbor's house getting piped down because you got a friendly chick. You thinking she home sleeping, but she really not. That's it. And now some women might be like, that's kind of weird for somebody to talk to you and not, I can't talk back.
How insecure are you?
Like that. you weird if you are talking to a stranger and you got a man. See, I don't like friendly.
All right, we done. It's just, it's so sad to see these men stoop this low. Let's see what's the comments. Yeah. Hey, what's going on, Angie? Let's take this fair use banner off. Let's see what else we got going. So we did some of that. I'm trying to figure out which one to pivot to. There was a great little video. I think I'm gonna pivot to this one. I'm gonna skip over some of these topics. But I was talking to my red pillar best friend. Let me take a look at some of these comments. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on? Let me go back to the banner. So I was talking with my red pill best friend. It's a blessing and it's a gift and a curse. I love him to death. We share the same name. Where is my little comment about this? I can't find it for whatever reason. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. It was this one. So I was talking about this week, and I think I'm at peace. I love him. We go back and forth with all these topics. He spits he's a red pillar. He's Republican. He's not a Trump supporter, but every single time I talk to him, I told him on these podcasts, I'm like, if I want an instant argument, I can just go talk to him. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be civil rights related. It could be women, especially red pill women related, dating related. So I made peace with it, and I'm like, wow, you really look at life like an actuary. You know, a lot of people probably don't know what actuaries are. They're like the pinnacle of like people who are great with math. They're, you know, a lot of times they'll get into like insurance industries, and they're building models. They're doing a lot of extremely advanced, like hidden figures type math stuff. But I was like, I had to tell him, I was like, Chris, you know, I understand that you look at some of these statistics about like, oh my gosh, women file for divorce 80% of the time. Does that tell you why? No, it doesn't. But that just sticks to him. Like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to get married because, you know, 80 women are just malcontents. He's just sure that women are malcontents, and you know, there's no other reason besides they're unhappy that they're filing for divorce. And I'm like, I've tried to tell him. I said on these podcasts, listen, anybody who files for divorce, man or woman, they are not doing that happily. They are doing that crying. They are doing that possibly regretting that decision for a long time, if not forever. And I just had to like come to it, make peace with it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he looks at life like he's a statistician or an actuary. And I'm like, I had to tell him, I'm like, Chris, even the statisticians who make these stats that you are modeling your life around and by, they are still going out and living their life, having kids, getting married, having girlfriends, you know, falling in love. They're not. And I was like, the funny thing I think that I arrived at too was, I was like, what happens if one of those statisticians like comes out and says, you know what, my math was wrong. You have just wasted your fucking life, you know, being fear-mongered by these statistics. So I'm like, I'm going to always lean on lived experience for the things I want. Now, it doesn't mean that like I won't, you know, take some advice and not do things or avoid danger. Of course, avoid danger. But like these guys are literally scared of women, and it's the funniest thing ever. Let me see, because I got a nice little video I want to talk about. This one kind of pivots. Let me see if the next topic. This one will be a nice little pivot. We have, for the people that have watched the Marvel Loki series or watched Deadpool and Wolverine, you've seen this area called the Void. It's where they throw all the variants that have done something weird that messes up a timeline. Where they throw the characters that they don't want for the timeline. I'm like, I was making a statement to my best friend, Red Winger best friend. I was like, we need to put the far right in the Void. Like, get rid of them. Like, you know, we don't need them here. The funny thing too is like, you know, some of these people are, hey, we need to go to another country. We're tired of the West. But the people who stay here in the West and get it popping, these detractors are gonna come right back and act like, nah, yeah, it's good, it's great again. it's like they're just culture vultures, they're posers, they don't want they just don't want to put the work in any phase of life. But just to the topic, the name of the topic is like, we have a right-wing problem. I think the Republicans have thrown their hands up. And it's not to say that all Republicans are bad. Like I said, I have a Republican best friend. He's awesome. He's my best friend. He's a great guy. I hate what he's doing to his life in terms of his perspective on women, but we have a far right problem, a red pill problem. We've seen some stories recently that said the UK want to treat it as extreme. I forget what they said. They want to treat it as like a crime. They want to treat it as they want to get rid of that far right problem. We need to do that over here too. So it pivots. Let me look at some of the comments. Thank you. I want to go to the next one. As I kind of thought about today, and I was like, I feel sorry for these red pillars and these misogynistic men. Specifically my best friend. Like, he's going to become he doesn't want to show his face on social media. He doesn't want a footprint on social media. Sorry, Chris, you got a social footprint because I'm talking about you on these shows. But I feel bad for these guys because how do I want to say this? I probably said it way better earlier today, but like they're prisoners. We're going to segue into a video, a great little video. It's required viewing for everybody watching live or replay. It's an hour long. I can't fair use myself through this video. We'll be here for 4 fucking hours, but I'm going to show, we'll maybe watch like 20, 30 minutes of it. And then we'll get into like maybe the topic of the show. But I feel sorry for these red pillar guys. I feel sorry for these guys who just have no self-confidence in themselves besides what society tells them they have to do. Because the video that we're about to watch, it's going to really show that it's like, my red pillar best friend will say, the reason that we're in this situation is because women decide to go to work. And I'm like, it's got to be deeper than that. and even if women decide to go to work, that has nothing to do with why y'all men are struggling. That has nothing to do with that. It just sounds like a major cope. So these men, I really feel sorry for them. Like, we really need to, I said it on a previous podcast, like a lot of parents are raising their boys for a world that no longer exists. This culture of be this stereotypical man. I've said on these previous podcasts, like, I hate the word stoic. I think it's disgusting. If you are naturally stoic, okay, I love that for you. But a lot of guys are not naturally stoic. They're just trying to pretend to be stoic because like they're taught to, this is what a man's supposed to do. You're supposed to hide your feelings. You're supposed to be stoic. No, don't do that shit. Like, be who you truly are. If you got to cry it out, cry it out. And move forward. But I think I said on the previous podcast, like, all these dudes who think they got it going on, like they know how women should have made the right decision. It was so easy, you could have just chose better, or you shouldn't have had the kid, or blah 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 blah. They think they have it all figured out. They would make terrible heads of household because they're scared. They don't. They're scared to live life. They're scared to take an L. I think I said that on the previous podcast, and that's what's going to. They're scared to be humiliated. And I'm sorry, like, if you're going to live your life, like, sometimes you do face humiliation. Sometimes it could be losing a job. It could be you could make a mistake on the job. It could be like blowing something in a tennis game or whatever. Or it could be losing a relationship. You can't avoid taking L's. But like I said, I feel sorry for these guys. They don't have the confidence. They don't see that other people are grifting off them, sending them to other countries, which I'm going to kind of segue. It was another topic, but I'm going to just address it now. There was an epiphany that I had. It's like, these guys who are fleeing the country, we're not going to mention their names anymore. Okay, we're gonna play nice with them. They're not getting the most desirable women anywhere. Like, we addressed this last podcast with BA, where we were like, I started doing the math. I was like, wait, you guys are impatient, and you guys can't handle rejection. Not saying he could, but he was just speaking on behalf of the guys who can't. I was like, how in the world can y'all really fathom what a desirable woman, what the levels of desirable women are when you fail to compete and you can't stomach it? Um, and like that's like I said, like on these podcasts, like y'all need to know what you attract because it's like rejection hurts. No one's immune to that, but it's where it helps you is if you know what you attract. Like those people love them some you. But if you're gonna ignore all that and just try to go after like what you think is the most desirable women, and BA said it on the last show. I just wanted to address this too. I wish I would have addressed it to him on that show. He said, if a car mechanic and only one of this OnlyFans girl and they were equally yoked, hold the show. Stop, hold the press. How equally yoked is a two person outcome. It's not one. You can't just look at a woman and say, or look at a man and say, I'm equally yoked. No, that's chemistry. The chemistry has to be proven for y'all to be equally yoked. So I think these dudes, especially the Manosphere, it's like telling these dudes like, hey, if you make 6 figures, she should want you. You should be a great. She's choosing Pookie, but she should really choose you. She should choose you instead of whoever she's choosing. No, that's not how it works. And that's not how it works on either side. But like these guys, like I feel sorry for them. Like they're going to be a footnote, a news footnote of this generation, which we're going to get into a video. And I feel sorry for them. Like they're just wasting time. They're losing out on opportunities. They're lonely. They're confused as to why. They're pointing in all the directions except for misogyny and bad actors in the community or male culture or themselves. They just want to point at women. Let me see. Let me look at some comments. Yeah, Angie said it perfectly. Let me go. Let's see. What else? There's a lot of topics. What do I want to show next? Let's get into. I want to just kind of pivot this one. We'll pivot away from the Manosphere for a second. I was talking with a person I previously dated, and she had two jobs, and on Reddit they call it OE for overemployment. They call them 2Js, like J2, J1, job 1, job 2. And she had like 2 jobs, and she ended up getting hemmed up, and kind of like learning a lesson. OE is not easy to do, and you really kind of have to choose one. So I was kind of like telling her like, hey, lean into one. My best friend Chris, he was trying to do this OE stuff. He never was successful to stand 2 up at the same time. He would get the second, lose the first. So it's risky business, and it's like it really hinges on, can you find 2 remote jobs? If any one of those is in the office, you're fucked. And that's what happened with this woman that I previously dated. It's like she got 2 jobs. Congratulations for that. But she without telling her business, like she kind of get hemmed up because both jobs kind of found out by different methods about her having 2 jobs. So what I learned from her experience, like it's stressful to carry 2 jobs, but to the banner, I'm like, man, we need to normalize. I told this to my friend Chris. I was like, we need to normalize. I really wish it didn't have to be done in secrecy. I wish they would normalize. And this is just my thoughts. I'm not trying to, say it needs to happen, but I'm just like, I really wish for the people that can carry 2 jobs, I wish it was normalized where it's like there would be no shame, there would be no trouble getting into. But people get in some serious trouble. You can lose both jobs. Yeah, Jamie's like, listen. She was telling me, she's like, if I was able to carry this second job through Christmas, I was going to be she was going to be completely out of debt. Her car note, and people are doing this. Let's be very clear about this. Some people are doing this. I'm not going to do this. I made the vow that when I joined my latest company, I said, you know what, jumping around, this is just my opinion. Like, you are never going to really you're going to be very hard pressed to like get your worth at a particular company at any given time, because your worth is kind of like going up and up and up and up and up. But once you get hired, it's mostly fixed, aside from the promotions and other, like, as they would call them, equity adjustments. But like I said, I had a friend, my best friend, like Chris, he was trying to jump around and be an independent contractor. He was trying to get 2 Js, and it never happened for him. And I just decided when I came to my company, I was like, I'm going to just lock into my company, try to get maximize my potential, and great things are going to happen. I'll get to where I need to get to. I'll be able to retire at that company. I'll get the promotions I want. I'll get to this. I'll get the salaries that I want. And that's, since I came into the company, like they've been doing right by your boy. They, the package they brought me in on, the bonuses every single year. Like I'm spoiled. But long story short, they need to. OE is you're right, Jamie. It's a great way to get ahead. It's hard to juggle. It's extremely stressful. Like the woman I was talking about earlier, like when they found out about her second job, like she was like under surveillance. Like it's stressful. And then the other job, she decided like, hey, I'm gonna go talk to my boss and let her know like I'm juggling the second job, and see what they think about that. And I was like, after I got off the phone with her, I was like, I don't know about how that's gonna work. I don't know how that's gonna work out. I'm like, if you have a cool boss, like maybe that'll work out. Like my ex-boss that I'm still friends with today, we're great friends. I want to bring him on the podcast. I could probably get away with that. But if you are new to a job and you're not really cool with your boss like that, it might be a recipe for disaster. So they, as you expect, they kind of like HR hemmed her up. And like I said, on the other job, like people were trying to snitch and try to get her HR hemmed up. So I hate that for her, but I was just, like I said, I was just telling her like, hey, just focus on one job, and maybe there's other ways to like. And once I talk to her again, I'm going to probably say like, maybe there's some other ways to do some J2 stuff, but like carrying a whole, another FTE J2, that's brutal. And she was super stressed out about it. Let's pivot. But the final thing I'll say about this J2 OE stuff is, like I said, when I came to my latest company, I was like, my goal is to get the salary that people are trying to get with that J2 and J1. I want that in one job, and then I will be flying over the stress that the people are going to have to do to have to carry 2 laptops and work 2 jobs and dip and dodge. I think the last thing I'll say about it is like someone who I previously dated, on again, off again. She had a friend that had 3 jobs. That's crazy, and I don't know how she's doing. I really want to ask her and say like, how is she doing? Because like 2 or 3 years ago, she was like juggling 3 jobs. That was crazy, and she was getting kind of like a little caught. So let me pivot. But people like Jamie is saying, I guess I'm super long-winded. The last thing I'll say, Jamie, is my last job and the boss that I used to work for, he has someone on his team that he knows doing OE. And the way he was getting hemmed up at this company is he would be trying to go to other countries using VPN to like appear like he was working in America. And he was getting hemmed up, but he might show up in America like in the office like the next day. So it's like people are really getting this OE in, but they are really living a dangerous life. Let's get to the video, because I think there's some like super great content to show about this. Let me see. Let me make sure I got the right video. Let's see. Let me share my screen. There's gonna be a lot of fair use going on, so let me turn the fair use banner on. I really wish we could just let it rock out and not have to like do fair use in between clips, but that such is life. Because this is really a great video, and like I said, it is required watching this show that I've been a fan of for years, called The Financial Diet. If y'all are into finance YouTube, I'm sure you're familiar with this channel. But hold on, but we're gonna get into it. 1 second. Let me switch to my account so we can avoid ads. Okay. Let me share my screen. Just sit back, get some popcorn. This is going to be a good watch. Just wanted to give you all that warning. Okay. Let's go.
If you had to work more than one job to have a roof over your head or food on the table, you probably shouldn't have taken the job that's not paying you enough. That'd be a you problem.
You got to get up, got to get to work, got to get going.
Something I always tell people to do instead of going out and protesting. Jesus, I just can't stand
Cleaning up
that.
the room?
Yeah.
What do you think? It's good work. You're exactly the kind of man I'd be looking for. I've never had a negative interaction with a female ever.
Whatever. I don't know what you can do that's legal and moral, but I want you to go make an extra $2,000 or $3,000 a month. But you don't have no life. You can't breathe. You're so tired. Your nostrils hurt.
I do think I win because I outwork people. I really do believe that.
Not a single woman has accused me of rape. Not a single woman has come out and said anything from my entire past of 36 years I've done anything wrong.
I can't.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this month's video essay here on the Financial Diet. I am your host, Chelsea Fagan. And pull up a chair. In fact, let's go camp counselor and flip that chair around and sit on it backwards, because we need to have a bit of a rap sesh about masculinity. Because when it comes to masculinity in America, we are in a bit of a flop era. You might have heard this already, but
Great
there
way
is
to
an
call it.
epidemic of male loneliness in this country, with fewer men than ever reporting having close friendships, and many of the institutions that men have historically relied on to form social connections all but disappeared. Quote, men in today's society may view deep relationships as not masculine, thus further isolating themselves. Only 48% of men reported feeling satisfied with friendships, according to a May 2021 survey, as previously reported by CNN. And 1 in 5 men said that they had gotten emotional support from a friend in the past week, compared with 4 in 10 women. And many experts have also referred to the growing mental health issues with men in America as a silent crisis, something that's exacerbated by their overall resistance to seek health care of any kind, even compared to women with the same income. Quote, according to the CDC, 26% of men have not had an appointment with a healthcare provider of any kind during the last 12 months. The Men's Health Network attributes this to the fact that many men are raised from an early age to believe that strong men don't cry, don't complain, and aren't ill. Men are taught these things all represent weaknesses and that real men are strong.
Yeah, let's skip past that. Let's get past the betterment. Even let's pause though. I love the things that she's saying so far. It's not even, we haven't even really got deep into this yet, and it's like I said with the Stockholm syndrome piece, is like there are so many toxic things that are taught to men. Don't show weakness. Don't cry. Be stoic. The women want a badass. They want the bad boys. So they want you to be a bad boy. So many toxic things, and I think it's a massive cope for the dudes who know they can't actually be a great guy. So they want to try to they want to be exciting. But like, again, I think some of these qualities that they're trying to pivot men to get to, they're exciting qualities, but it's being packaged in a toxic way. So it's like they're never telling you just be yourself. I think my best friend Chris, we were talking, and he was just basically kind of explaining it, saying like, basically men should kind of come in and almost like the Navy kind of come out and be trained in a sense of from manhood. And I was like, no, like I think that you should be able to be encouraged to be yourself, but being a man, you get shamed by being different. You get shamed. We've talked about on some of these podcasts. You get shamed if you're not a sole provider. A lot of times people, specifically men in society, will turn things into a pissing contest. And I beat it like a dead horse on some of these recent podcasts in a while ago, saying like, not only are men turning into a pissing contest, but like they're out here looking for validation from other men. Like when we look at, and I know we haven't mentioned him in a while, we talk about Austin Hallman. How awkward and how weird and disgusting is it for 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old men to be orbiting a 20-year-old? And for that to be, I mean, for any kind of reason, but they want to live vicariously through him. They want to live vicariously through these other dudes who are, doing these, stereotypically masculine things of like, oh my gosh, he can lift 6,000 pounds. Oh, great for him. That doesn't mean every guy has to, and it doesn't mean if you can't lift this 6,000 pounds that you're weak. You've got to have pride and be proud of who you are. But let's press pause. This is gonna get really good. Really good.
List. The good news is there is still plenty of time to accomplish those goals before the year ends. And Betterment makes it easier than ever to start investing. No matter.
Oh, hold on. No, I did it. I messed up. Hold up.
Thank you to our sponsor, Betterment. With over 3 months still left in the year, I know. Head to betterment.com.
Annoyed.
And tons of time saved, and I'm still eating well. I especially loved the tofu enchilada bowl and the creamy pesto
No, we're
pork
not
chop.
doing this.
Being single, this epidemic of loneliness, crisis of loneliness, whatever we choose to call it. The factors that reduce these situations, work culture, technology, more of us working from home, telecommuting than ever before, capitalism in general, they impact women too. It's not as if men are unique in some way in living alone, being single,
Talk to him.
having social networks, support networks that are at a distance. This affects women in nearly the exact same numbers. So what then is the difference between men and women here? And I think that masculinity is the best explanation that we have. That privileging of stoicism, silence,
Yuck.
An aversion to sharing feelings, desire to not burden other people with your problems. These are all celebrated within a culture of masculinity, and toxic masculinity especially.
We also spoke with Katrina Monton, a PhD candidate at Columbia University and organizational consultant.
In terms of thinking about, traditional or toxic masculinity and male loneliness, I think I would put it in like maybe 3 buckets or categories. So I think the first would be, a key tenet of traditional or toxic masculinity, however we want to call it, is emotional restraint. So I think men are often socialized to hide kind of their vulnerabilities and avoid showing emotions, which I think can prevent them from seeking emotional support. I think vulnerability is a very important component to developing meaningful relationships and connections with others. And so in some ways, if men are completely suppressing those parts of themselves, I think it becomes really challenging for them to connect in real ways with peers, partners, families, right? So I think what we see then is, this emotional suppression can directly block men from actually forming meaningful relationships with other men and women as well.
And if we're looking at ways to identify the flop era that men are in right now, few indicators are more striking than the decrease in life expectancy, again, even compared to women. Because over the past few years, life expectancy generally has taken a bit of a hit due to the COVID pandemic, but even perhaps sometimes a trendy position on the internet to make light of issues that face men, especially straight men, and to treat them with a certain level of flippancy, whether because they're not as acute as other problems, or because it's undeniable that men do still hold a number of privileges in our society which make it theoretically easier on the individual level to confront some of these issues. But I know that no one is a statistic and we are all individuals, and that just because someone else might have a broken leg, your sprained ankle still matters. But second, and maybe even more importantly, this is first and foremost a financial channel. So I want to explore this issue from a financial and economic perspective. Because when you look at the trends in our economy over the past few decades, things like the decline of unions, stagnation of wages, and concentration of wealth at the very top income levels, you can see extremely strong correlations with the trends of issues that men are facing. The same issues that a lot of these gurus we're going to discuss today are happy to sell you solutions to at an expensive price while completely ignoring the economic elephant in the room. So we're going to be taking these problems seriously, but we're also not going to be scapegoating them by blaming people who are also victims of these same economic trends. In this house, it is not enough to just say, oh, women are now working all day and not taking care of the home anymore, and that's why men are sad. We are going to dive deeper and ask why so many parents are in the workplace to begin with, working full-time while also trying to be full-time parents and drowning in the cost of childcare, and why it's no longer realistic for the vast majority of American families to survive on a single income the way we used to. So put on your nuance hats and let's get ready to unpack the crisis that is being a man in America. Starting with Chapter 1, Grind Culture and the Pressure to Provide. Basically, anyone can tell you that historically, one of the core tenets of masculinity, pretty much cross cultures, has always been the ability to provide for a family. For millennia, and certainly for many decades before us, the model was traditionally one of men are the providers and women are the homemakers. And even leaving aside exemplified the many ways in which that very model can be complicated in and of itself, and definitely wasn't always as simple as we like to think it was looking back in history. Providing in and of itself is inevitably a source of stress because it's a huge expectation to live up to. And a large part of this is because it's become all but impossible to support a family on a single income anymore. Thanks to wage stagnation, the middle class is shrinking and the income gap is widening to levels we haven't seen since the Gilded Age. In 1970, adults in middle-income households accounted for 62% of aggregate income, a share that fell to 42% in 2020. Meanwhile, the share of aggregate income accounted for by upper-income households has increased steadily, from 29% in 1970 to 50% in 2020.
All right, fair use. Let's take a pause there. Like, great, again, great information that we're hearing from this. Are we hearing this stuff from the Manosphere? Are we hearing this from the far right? Absolutely not. What we're hearing is, oh, boss babes. Oh, women are going to college and they're accumulating student loan debt. Oh, black women are getting evicted at alarming rates. Let's see, what else are they saying? Oh, they want traditional households. They can't afford it. I said on the previous podcast, I was like, I personally, I'm not, like I said, my personal feeling is the way these guys want to live, I think they need no less than 130 to do it. And because they want to have kids too. They want to be able to have a stay-at-home wife. I personally don't think it's going to be affordable for me to like 180, 200 plus. But they don't, I think the other thing I was wanting to say before I forget about this is, I was talking to somebody maybe a day or two ago, and I was like, one of the funnier things about this whole TradCon, two things about this TradCon movement that black men somehow got sucked into. If you YouTube black trad wife, nothing comes back. It's only white people dressing up like little cartoon characters, trying to play into the white male fragilities that they want someone baking bread for them when they come home. You don't see that. The only thing you're going to see is little memes they call Wojaks. You're gonna see like little black drawings of I saved two of them, but you don't see that. But the bottom line, the other thing that's funny too is, I don't think these guys came from traditional TradCon relationship households. I did, and spoiler alert: if they were to even achieve that, if they were to have a TradCon relationship marriage with children, their daughters are gonna grow up and be prisms, femmies. Angie and TJ's, who said that. They're going to be very strong and very educated and very ambitious women. The women that they don't want, the women that they don't want to see, the women that they think are problems for relationships. Because these red pillars feel like they're just crippled. There's just no room for them to run to, because it's like they're so scared of getting married, because like they feel like if they get married, because they want these TradCon relationships, they're like, if I get divorced, I'm giving her half. But then they feel like, oh my gosh, if I get married to a boss babe, quote unquote, who makes more than I do, she's going to resent me. She only wants a guy on her level or higher, and she's eventually going to get rid of me, and she's going to mistreat me. Well, and they're going to throw out the stat and say, when men are in marriages where the man makes less, they tend to get divorced even higher than the situations where the guy makes more. Well, they're going to get into that here. Hopefully, I didn't skip over it. And like, long story short, why is the Manosphere not talking about this stuff? Oh, I get it, because these guys, it's just a circle joke of guys just trying to cope about their problems and not face their problems head on. Let's go.
And this is an especially big problem when we tell men that they are worthless if they don't have money and power.
I think the constant push to work harder, longer, can lead to severe physical and mental problems like chronic stress, burnout, insomnia, heart disease. And I think men caught up in this grind culture may neglect their health in favor of work, which again, we as we just mentioned, can lead to long-term consequences. I think the emphasis on work often means less time for family, friends, and hobbies. So I think family and friends, like on this first front, I think this can strain your personal relationships. So as men may be physically present, but emotionally unavailable, kind of the lack of quality time with loved ones could lead to isolation and honestly dissatisfaction with their personal lives. And then I think with hobbies, this might mean that you're neglecting hobbies, interests, personal development in favor of professional success, which again can just lead to feelings of dissatisfaction with one's life or kind of reduced happiness. And then aligned with this, I really think that constantly striving for the next achievement can really lead to like perpetual dissatisfactions.
The term toxic masculinity gets thrown around a lot, and I think often there's a defensiveness in thinking that it refers to masculinity in and of itself as being a toxic thing. But it's important to be clear in our terms that usually, at least if it's being used in good faith, toxic masculinity is referring to specific ideals of masculinity that are mostly toxic for the people who have to adhere to them. And in a world where it is increasingly impossible to support a family on a single income, the idea that you are only truly a man if you're able to do so is, by and large, a very toxic idea. But it's so ingrained in us as a culture that a huge faction of men are completely intimidated by the idea of a female breadwinner.
Here we go.
And there are consequences for women who don't subscribe to the norm in this way. According to a University of Chicago study, opposite-sex marriages where the man is not the provider are 50% more likely to end in divorce. One study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family even found a link between men's stress at midlife and being financially dependent on a female breadwinner by measuring allostatic load, a physiological marker of chronic exposure to stress, compared to household income by spouse. Interestingly, being economically dependent was not itself a marker of stress at midlife, but rather men's ideological beliefs. Quote, "We found that economic dependency was associated with higher allostatic load for men who espoused more traditional gender ideology. We found the opposite for the most egalitarian men. Economic dependency was associated with a lower level of allostatic load." In other words, men who think being a man means being a breadwinner are more likely to experience chronic stress and the health consequences that come with it than men who don't. And I can't move on without highlighting just one more statistic here, which is that men with high-earning wives are also more likely to cheat. You see, ladies, they told us we could have it all. They got us into that workplace. They had us girl boss our way up to the C-suite just so we can get cheated on. Quote, "In fact, about 15% of the men in a study by the American Sociological Review who were 100% financially dependent on their wives had affairs. And that's 3 times higher than high-earning wives who had the lowest cheating rates of any population. Because they're too damn busy, probably. Yeah, and they're also busy f***ing taking care of the house too, because let's be clear, and we've broken this down in other videos, and we'll get to it in a future essay, but just because a woman is working full-time, even being the breadwinner, doesn't mean she is relieved from the expectation to basically do everything in the home. Because again, girls, we have it all. We got that briefcase in one hand, that Cosmopolitan in the other. We're wearing stilettos. We're driving a luxury vehicle. We got a baby on one boob and a man on the other.
A husband is twice as likely to cheat if his wife makes more money than he does, which is just, it's an outrageous number, right? So the short answer there, and this is something that has been studied at great length now, is self-esteem. That men are taught that their value, as we hear from influencers all the time, is in providing and protecting. And so if you are not providing, then you are failing in some essential role. That simple explanation is men cheat to feel better about themselves. How can they build that esteem back up? Well, I can't do it by being the principal breadwinner, either because I'm a stay-at-home dad or my profession just doesn't offer me those same opportunities. And we find destructive, self-destructive, family destructive ways then to go about feeling like a real man. Which, if that isn't the surest example of just how truly awful our dominant modes of masculinity can be, that it leads people to blow up their lives because they don't make as much money as their partner. I can't think of a better example of toxicity than that.
So when it comes to the solutions that we are often offering men for how to support your family in a world where a single income isn't enough anymore, a lot of male-targeted media and gurus and advice will basically just tell them to hustle themselves to death. And of course, when men are taught the message over and over that their ability to earn money is essential to their identity and the entire concept of being a man, they are going to be very likely to overwork themselves in a pursuit of that money. And a perfect example of this, at least as it pertains to the kind of messages being marketed to.
I'm just going to take a pause for fair use. I want to let it rip. I really do. But for the sake of fair use, I think we got to say something. So I hope that was eye-opening, especially to the red pillars, especially to the toxic people in this space that want to tell men these half-truths. Oh, if you marry a boss babe, she's going to be more likely to divorce you than a regular marriage. Well, we got the other side of that too. You're not telling the entire story. It's more of how these men are failing and struggling to cope with the pressures that society and other men are putting on them. And it's really sad. Like I said, like these guys don't realize they're prisoners in this. They don't realize that they feel like being born a man, you're burdened with these expectations. No, you don't. And I think, I mean, just to do a little story time, like I said, my dad, I got to learn it early on in life because my dad's a doctor. And I had to realize when you have a very high performing dad, you realize some of the things that you were shown you might be living a different life unless you follow in his footsteps, so to speak. So it's like, I had to realize that like the way he's able to provide, I can do that, but I may or may not be doing it at his salary range. And I do great for myself, but it's like, so I didn't ever subscribe to this notion of, I've got to have a stay-at-home wife, dude. Like you got to get with the times. Like every guy would love to do that, me included. But it's just smarter to do it with two. And I said on the previous podcast, it's like that is a milestone to be able to retire your wife or retire your spouse. That doesn't have to be the baseline. If you're trying to start the gate like that, you got to be, earning. You got to be like really bringing home the bacon, or sacrificing, which we've already kind of proven on some of these podcasts. Like the guys aren't really willing to sacrifice like that. They're not family men like that. They want to have this trophy wife, but they want to be able to live a very exciting life as well. And they don't really want to be carrying the child rearing load too. So it's like they're living in a dream. They're living like in Barbie world. They're not living in real life. Let me see what else I was going to say to this. It's just like I really feel sorry for them. They feel sorry for all the Pukishas. They feel sorry for all the single moms. They feel sorry for the simps. But really, everyone feels sorry for them. Like they're the biggest victim. They're some of the biggest victims in society. It's like, because like they're not really living. They're just observing and critiquing and pointing the finger and throwing stones. While everyone else is out there living, taking chances, succeeding, making some mistakes and getting back up. But they're not doing that. They just they're wasting their life away. And if that's what they want to do, that's fine. But they should do it with some humility. And that's what's missing from the Manosphere is like, these aren't dudes who are like, I really want a family. I'm dying to have a family. No, they just want to see the world burn. They want to see things harder and more miserable for women because they feel like women have it so easy in life. Let's hit play.
Men on social media is the Sigma male. Quote, first coined by far-right activist and writer Theodore Robert Beale on a fringe nationalist blog in 2010, the Sigma male describes an introverted alpha male who likes to play by his own rules. Proliferated on 4chan forums and esoteric right-wing fitness circles, the Sigma mindset, or grind set, is associated with motivational speakers like Gary Vee. But its archaic views on masculinity, paired with ample lashings of corporate cringe, feel bafflingly extreme. In one so-called motivational video, Vaynerchuk asks an audience member to motivate themselves by imagining—
I gotta hit pause for this. This hurts because I used to listen to Gary Vee's podcast about like 7 years ago, and he's kind of like inspirational. But I hate to see that this man pivoted and kind of became almost like a right-wing grifter to a sense. He's not adopting that he's not adopting that group, but he is kind of like, he loves to get them for like engagement. So it's like he's not like a full-blown cuck like Jordan Peterson or Chris Williamson, but he's the part of toxic masculinity that they talk about in terms of the grind culture, the overworking these men to death. Listen, Gary Vee, he's probably got enough money to buy the fucking jets. That's what I've known him to aspire to want. And probably one day he's going to buy the New York Jets, the football team. But listen, not everybody is built. And this is one of the things I want to say is like, not everybody's built like that. there are some guys who are extreme hustlers, some guys who are extreme gamblers, or some guys who are extreme macho, extreme of this, extreme that. And I think one of the problems about some of the tenets about masculinity is they try to like hold every man to that standard. Like, this is what you should want to do. No, like some men are going to be that. Some men are going to be this. Some men are going to be that. We can't all be that. And that's why these men are struggling. They've established a standard that because of just characteristics, personality, physicality, and now that we're seeing economy, they can't live up to. So like I said, it hurts my heart to see Gary Vee get put on the Summer Jam screen. This quote right here is crazy, and we're going to get into. I'm going to let her finish the rest of it.
A relative getting shot in the face, while in another, he goes in depth on how hustle culture will make you rich. The content parodies itself, and self-parodying it may be, but the Sigma mindset has certainly found its audience. Gary Vee has 30 million followers across his social media channels.
The whole Sigma male phenomenon, they're interesting phenomenon because I think what we've seen is a movement to, more explicitly than ever, men seeking the approval of other men. So many of them seem to have simply convinced themselves that these ostentatious displays of wealth, what would otherwise look like clearly antisocial behavior, looks maxing, all of these things that are pushed in this subculture are very much appealing to what other men say is value, trying to impress other men, win the approval and the applause of other men, with very little thought given to, is this also appealing to women? If I am lonely and single, and ostensibly I don't want to be, at least, when these men talk about things like male loneliness, it appears that they believe it is bad. Then one would have to assume that they are looking to find a partner. And yet at no point are they asking women, what is it that you look for in a man?
Facts.
They are seeking almost exclusively the opinions of other men who, in this wonderful twisted feedback loop, at no point does anyone seem to seek the advice of women.
Men are stupid.
I think that to me is the strangest part of this whole phenomenon. That at no point does anyone seem to actually be looking for advice from the person or the people that they appear to be seeking the approval of.
But that said, there's also been an interesting alternative to the hustle grind set that has been presented to men in the past decade or so, again, in light of an economy where it is increasingly impossible to support a family. And that is not hacking your ability to work more, but hacking your income. Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek, aka How to Exploit Overseas Virtual Assistants So You Can Be a Digital Nomad Who Barely Has to Work, has sold millions of copies and is beloved by crypto bros everywhere. And while it does ostensibly put less of an emphasis on you individually working more, I do think it ultimately represents just a slightly different side of the same coin. Either you work so much that your loved ones suffer from your absence, or you find a way to work very little by taking advantage of underpaid employees who aren't in a place to demand more. In both scenarios, your success and your ability to overcome an economy where wages have not even been remotely in line with the cost of living and inflation, the solutions are entirely individualistic, and they're either exploiting yourself or exploiting someone else. You can deep dive into the content of basically any hustle/work/income hacking bro, and you will find essentially nothing that speaks to the actual policy problems that have led to this circumstance. The fact that, for example, we're at historical lows of union membership, something that used to be almost entirely populated by male workers and guaranteed, among other things, more competitive wages, time off, healthcare, retirements, pensions, etc., that doesn't make it into the conversation. But working extreme hours or outsourcing your entire life to the global south frequently does. In both scenarios, though, your success is ultimately at someone's expense. Which brings us to our next chapter, Chapter 2, Be a Man with all the force of a great typhoon. Among all the solutions we've been offering to men over the past few decades about their worsening economic and social situations, perhaps one of the most effective yet most simple has just been that they're not being manly enough. Because yes, things like
Gross.
life hacking or hustling or physical fitness and financial gamification, and we'll get into those in a bit, can be a part of the recipe. But for a certain strain of male-fluencer, there's a pretty straightforward message of just be more of a man. Now, what it means to be a man, especially in a lot of the online and media spaces that are geared toward men, can vary, because everyone's definition is going to be slightly different, and there are cultural factors that impact it. But there are some consistencies in the be a more manly man messaging. And while I could speak at length about influencers like Andrew Tate, who have gone, I think, about as far as anyone could possibly go in the messaging of be more of a man, I actually don't even want to address him because I don't think he's a serious figure, and I don't think people who follow him are serious people. And quite frankly, if you are already someone who is really bought into the Andrew Tate lifestyle of
to acknowledge, access, or even understand their feelings. So it makes it so they're unlikely to seek help, both based on expectations of male toughness and stigma, like I had just mentioned. I also think, to go back to the previous point, I think as human beings, we're hardwired for connection. And so we're not really meant to live alone. We're actually meant to be social beings. And so if you are living with these narrow forms of masculinity and you are experiencing loneliness, I think that can have really lasting and damaging effects on a person's health, mental health and health overall. And so that would go for men and women. But what we're seeing is that these trends of, prevalence of mental health and health issues are actually happening among men, and they're not really getting that help that they need. It might suggest that personal shortcomings are solely due to like a lack of discipline or resilience, really overlooking systemic factors or mental health conditions that actually require different approaches. So I think that can be pretty problematic. I think oftentimes we see like stoicism as advocating for emotional control, but I think that can actually feed this loop of, promoting emotional suppression, which is actually unhealthy. What is healthy is emotional expression. And so can obviously lead men to feel kind of pressure to hide or ignore their emotions, which again perpetuates these toxic and narrow views of kind of masculinity, which I think feeds into my next point. Is just like it emphasizes these masculine virtues that are patriarchal and problematic in many ways, and again like reinforce these ideas that by valuing traits like stoicism and emotional stoicism that are inherently masculine, you're automatically kind of devaluing vulnerability and empathy. So it really does perpetuate these like rigid gender norms. And then again, I think based on, be a man philosophy, it's really centered on a specific, sometimes narrow view of masculinity. And so it's really not accounting for different and varied perspectives of masculinity, particularly for those that do not fit into that neat traditional mold, or those who face kind of unique challenges. So I think those are some of the kind of problems with it.
This is not exclusively a new phenomenon. It is something very old on steroids, because we used to have a far greater willingness in the scripts of masculinity to value, for instance, the opinions of mothers, sisters. There were trusted women in your social circle whose opinions you were taught to value. And increasingly, all opinions of women are just shut out. So not a totally new phenomenon, but certainly a more problematic one than ever.
But if we're getting into the listen up buckoification of self,
I think we're gonna end it with that. Let's hit the stop. Let's look at some of these comments. So I think when I was looking at this video, I just found it today. I was like, oh shoot, I gotta watch this. I was like envisioning like when you were back in like high school or middle school, whatever, and like the teacher was just having like a video to play for class. Like this is required viewing. Like everybody, I know the men, the misogynistic men, that we're not gonna get them to watch 1 minute. We're not gonna even be able to get them to sit through an ad, for fuck's sake. But they need to watch this. They need to actually hear something that's actually giving them a whole picture for once, instead of a misogynistic cope, pat on the back, and have them blame their problems away and kick the problems down the road somewhere else. But let's look at some of the comments. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Oh, wait. What's BA saying? He's in the house. I don't get this. I mean, I get this, BA. Happiness is key. I agree with you on that. But I hope that you learn something. And like I said, this is required viewing. I want everybody to let me put as a matter of fact, let me put the link in the chat. Y'all need to watch this. Required viewing. Let me go to, I think, the final topic we're going to talk about. And really, honestly, I would love to kick this topic down the road because I really have two friends, ex-coworkers that are 50 or older, and I really want to do a deep dive. I really felt like I needed at least one of them here to talk about like the 50-year-old men and how like I really think that they are a key piece of what's fucking up the Black community, let alone men in general. In general, because like these men, they're struggling for a lot of different factors. We're struggling from an economical factor, but social is got them in a chokehold too. And when we think about the social, we have to think about the 50-year-old, even 40, maybe 40, 50, 60-year-old men and older that are continuing to perpetuate, that are refusing to let these young men live their lives and let them prosper and let them maybe make change. Let's be clear about this. And I'm not saying like, I'm saying like these misogynistic, I'm circling out the misogynistic older men. They need to let it go. They need to realize that their time is over of being a young man. It's time to settle into being an older man. Act the part, dress the part, look the part, talk the part. Stop acting like a young kid. I think that, let me get to the banner for that. Did I make one for this? I had to. I think I made one. Hold on. Let's see. We're gonna stick with this one for the meantime, but I think I made a banner for this. Okay, cool. Listen, brace yourself. It's a little harsh. Sorry, but yeah. So I'm like, I think that we as a community, we're too welcoming. I have some clips that I'm gonna lead this off of a clip. We're gonna go back to some story time, or some show and tell. This, I think even BA is gonna be disgusted by watching this one. Let's see. So, give me a second. We're gonna share one more thing and we're gonna get into this. Share screen. Okay. Let's make sure we can hear this. Fair use.
I got jungle fever. I'm here with my motherfucking uncle, man. Boy, look at this white woman right here. Look at her. Boy, I got jungle fever. I don't want reparations. I just want to date a white woman. I don't want reparations, ma'am. And I'm voting for Donald Trump. Fuck.
I am, me too.
Yeah, fuck that.
Wait, hold on.
I am too.
Wait, hold on. I can't even complain.
Fuck you, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Look.
We bunny hopping over here, nigga. Look at this bunny. Look at this snow bunny. We bunny hopping, nigga. All the way back to Africa.
All the way home.
All the way home. Bunny hopping. Yeah, and I'm paying taxes. I pay taxes. I pay taxes proudly because I'm an American. I got jungle fever.
All right. That's it. I think we had to lead it off with this. Let me take the fair use off. As a matter of fact, I mean, well, actually, let me keep it on because there might be some extra fair use to talk about, and I don't want to put it back on. But the point I wanted to make is, let me scroll up on my iPad. Charleston White is 52 fucking years old. You can see it a little bit on his face. He ain't a young dude, but I think that's like one of the bigger problems of like our community is like we have these men that for whatever reason they just kind of like threw their hands up and said, you know what, I'm gonna choose violence. I'm gonna choose ignorance. I'm gonna choose not trying to settle into my older age and become an older statesman, I'm going to be one of these problematic OGs and just try to like grift off the younger group of men and try to date their women and hang out with them and act like a little kid. Shout out to let me see, Poppy Rico. He's one of them. He orbits Austin Home, and every single time he comes on this panel, I light his ass up, saying like, "Why are you 50 years old with a daughter and you're orbiting Austin Home?" And I don't get it. I don't think I'll ever get it. But I had, let me see if I have the pictures ready to show. Give me 1 second. I'm not sure if I have it, but give me 1 second. Let me see if I have the photos ready. Maybe they didn't sync. They didn't. So I'll just rip off the names since I didn't create an album for it yet. People like Charleston White, again, over 50 years old. He's 52. Dr. Umar, 50. Vlad TV, Culture Vulture, 51. Tariq Nasheed, 50. Patrice O'Neal would have been 54. Diddy, 54 years old. Corey Holcomb, problematic. He's 56 years old. He's married. He's acting a fool, and he's a terrible example for younger and older black men. Kevin Samuels was 53 and he passed away. Rollo Tomasi, I wanted to show that shit. Actually, matter of fact, we'll get back to him. Jordan Peterson, that cuck, he's 62 years old. Dennis Sperling is 50. I think, and I wanted to maybe end it with showing the Rollo Tomasi quote. I gotta show that to show you what older men are, how they're influencing younger men, and what they're influencing them to do. Let's see. Let's see. Let me share this. Hold on. Here we go. Now we're ready. So Rollo Tomasi, he's one of the leaders of the Red Pill. He was influencing men to do. He made this post. I don't know why he didn't take it down. He got roasted for it. Even within the Red Pill community, he was telling men advice of how to be what he thought was the quickest path to becoming a high value man. He would eventually back off of this and say that this was not advice. But the one I wanted to circle on was, this is nothing new. Don't get married. This is, they want to tell men, scare them away from, creating families. They want to scare them away from having kids. The third one is, I think, the wild one. He's instructing men in their 20s to get vasectomies. Like they're to avoid creating families by any means. And it's just like, that's not meant to be reversible. It's terrible advice. Let me see what else. Some of these other things, I mean, I guess, but like they're getting just terrible advice. So again, like I really want us as a community to make a turn on like 50-year-old men. Stop being so welcoming. Stop like, and it's not just us as a community. It's also the younger people within our community, because they're really kind of grifting off of them. They're latching onto them. They're orbiting the younger men. We said on the previous podcast, they're kind of throwing them off the track so they can date these younger women. What else? It's just overall, besides just trying to grift off of them and cause chaos within the culture, they're setting a terrible precedent for young and older men to in society. They're trying to normalize bad behaviors. They're trying to normalize it's not just younger men. Let's see, hold on, what is this? Don't get married so that they can date. Yeah. Yeah. Let's turn off the fear use. We don't need it anymore. But yeah, I mean, I agree with this. It's it's pretty sad. I think when we think about it, that these men had a decision to make. They had life decisions to make. They could have, been in a relationship. They could have gotten married. Some of them, a lot of them have kids. Let's address that. And they're not living like it. They're not setting a good example. But I want us to. We're not. This is not on. When I talk about like younger men, I'm not saying that this is all on them. I'm saying like we as a community are too welcoming, and we're not holding men to standards. We hold women to standards, like by 30, by 40, by 20. There's people are asking them about what are you doing, what are you planning to do, or when are you going to have kids, when are you going to do this, but they're not really checking men like that. And for the men specifically that I'm trying to latch on to focus on, like we're not doing anything about them, from the men from within male culture and at the Black community itself. Like I sent a video to someone that I previously dated from a person that we're not going to talk about, and he's a 50-year-old, 51, maybe 52-year-old man, and he was saying the best advice that he got from his grandfather was to take women to church, and it was a performative act to take them to church for like 5 hours, so that for like on a Sunday and then Wednesday. So then he said, now I can cheat. I'm guaranteed to cheat on Sunday, be able to have time and bandwidth to cheat on Sunday and Wednesdays, because she's not going to want to come back again to church for like a 3-5 hour affair. So it's just like, and the person I was talking about, she was like, is he joking? And the sad thing is, like, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if like some of the Corey Holcombs, the Kevin Samuels and things like that, if this is just an act, if this is that they're joking. I'll tell you just right now, like the men on social media can't tell. They can't tell the difference between reality and social media, reality and a skit. And a lot of it is because like it ties very closely to what we are what society tries to indoctrinate us in terms of like male culture. It's expecting us to. It's preying on a lot of those insecurities. It's clinging to a lot of those tenets that we're made to feel less than if we don't achieve. But it's like I said, going back to it, it's like I want us to see. I hope that we see a day that, especially our generation and future generations, can just like leave this old way of thinking behind, leave this misogynistic old guard behind, let it die off as a relic. It should have never been here. These guys should be embarrassed to have been doing it. And it's a new day. We don't have to continue it. We don't have to continue to do the same stuff that people were doing in your day. We see people like P. Diddy. He's getting hemmed up. He might be going to jail for the rest of his life. Black men do not need to emulate that. We need to look at we need to try to find better images or better goals to try to aim for and try to become just be better young men and be better older men. But I mean, I'm kind of pooped. Let me put the chat out. I don't. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Feel free to join. I might have like 30 minutes max left of me, but somebody join. BA, someone else join the panel. Let's put that up there. But like I said, it's just heartbreaking to see older men not being held accountable, acting up, and no one not and going unchallenged. And you wonder are they raising their kids that same way, or is this an act? It's just, like I said, it's just sad to see. And like I said, me as a 40-year-old man, it's sad for me to see men older than me acting half my age. Let's see. Got it. And no problem. But I'm trying to think of what else. Let me see if there's any other hot takes that I had. Let's see. Yeah, I think I think I might have already kind of like touched upon it, but like I just want to. I wrote down a note saying like the Black community, just the male community in general has like too much negative interference and misinformation within it and push upon it, and that's what I'm trying to get to with like these 50-year-old older men is like in no way in what they should be doing is trying to help and encourage men to be better, to be hold themselves more accountable, to help learn from their examples and their experiences. But this is what I was kind of saying, in the previous podcast about wisdom. Like you got to really be careful of who you're trying to take that from, because like some of these older men, like they're just out here pushing in for misinformation. They're just trying to like knock you off your stoop so they can go date the women that you're supposed to be dating. Let me see what else. But it's just let's see. I think I want to go back to like maybe a red pill. I want to pivot off this point. I'm gonna put this one up. So like the red pill, like they got an excuse for everything. And it's like I said, when I was talking to like my red pill best friend, it's like you have to I just had to realize, like I was saying earlier, like I had to throw my hands up and realize like he is who he is. He's gonna live, think whatever he thinks. The reality that he thinks it is. The reality for everyone is, what he thinks, and a lot of it is shaped by stats. But it's like, let me think. There's this clip that I think I've been trying to like get people to watch in the past, where it's from this channel called, I think it's called like Rethinking Relationships or something like that, and it like tackles this notion of a lot of red pill men, a lot of conservative men, a lot of Manosphere men believe that like all women are being shared by chads, by other men, and the bottom 1/3 of men, they're not able to procreate, or they're not able to date. They don't have any dates, and it's like, in no world are we gonna have every man getting a date. In no generation did we ever have that. There were always men that weren't able to date or weren't able to procreate. That's nothing new. There were women who went through the same thing, and they didn't jump online to create a hate movement on social media to bitch about it. But like I said, like I wanted to focus on like the bottom third, and I was just like, I was telling my best friend Chris, I was like, dude, at the bottom third, you're caping for a lot of men who, some of them are degenerates, some of them are abusive, some of these are men who, yeah, they need to work on themselves and they're just not very, desirable. Sure. But the red pillars have this notion that like they're gonna cling to that the notion that like not only do the 1/3 have no chance, but really the average man and above, unless you're like an 8, 9, or 10, has a chance, because all the women are just going, they're sleeping with the 9 and the 10s, they're being shared. And it's like I had to like check him, and I was like, what do you mean by shared? Like, I think that's kind of ridiculous to think that like all these men, 5, 6 out of 10 and up, like they're just sleeping with women day after day after day. That's probably not, I don't think that's happening. What's probably happening is they're dating one guy, they enter a sexual relationship with that guy, they break up. That guy gets with another woman, he enters a sexual relationship with that woman, they break up. That doesn't mean he was sharing them. But to the red pillars, that does, because they only look at stats, and they're just saying, they look at stupid things like the OK Cupid. Like, I think what he sent me this week was, he sent me this profile of this social experiment about this guy he was a very attractive white guy. Like, pause, but under his profile it said, hey, I've had a history of abusing women, and I might have gone to jail for abusing women. And then but my friend wanted to highlight like, hey, this guy got like 200 hits. And I'm like, okay, so I mean, for one, on a lot of times on these dating apps, like all you do is you see Chris 42. You don't see, some people just look at pictures and swipe, and that's it. Some people actually read the profile. I'm one of those people. Like, I'm like, if you don't have a profile, I just need 1 or 2 sentences. But if you don't have that, I'm not swiping on you. It's just really lazy. But and I posed it to my friend Chris. I was like, dude, like, what's wrong with those women just wanted sex from this dude because he was an attractive guy. Pause. But it's just like I think the problem is that these red pillar dudes, they want to look at it and they want to say all women are gonna be attracted to the Chad who's got maybe or the Pookie or the guy who's got like an abusive past. Just they're gonna just go for him on looks alone. And I'm like, you might be talking about a woman of a certain age, you might be talking about a certain type of pedigree of woman, but like from my experience, like the women I'm dating, the women who are like 35 plus, 40 plus, they're not interested in that type of dude. But like you can't get the red pillars to understand that. Let me see what else. Trying to see if I have any more talking points. Let's see. Yeah, I think. Let me see if there's anything else. I got one point. I'm trying to just gather them together. Let's see. So I see like at least 2 points, and then I think I'm gonna end it. One is like, let's see. Hold on. I think I lost the point I was on, but I think I'll go to the second point that I was going to end on. It was like I said, like misogyny depends on both women and men being indoctrinated, and it breaks whenever someone of either gender is rejecting the indoctrination. So I think that's one of the reasons why they hate me. I'm too hard-headed for my own good to be indoctrinated. I'm not going to listen to some perfect stranger on the internet who I don't know it from anything to tell me how I need to live my life and how I need to give up having a family and give up getting married, give up dating women, move to another country or whatever, move to another city or anything or whatever type of behavior. I'm not going to listen to them. They're gonna get the majority of men. So, let's see. And I said I kind of want to close on saying like the men and women who try to reject that indoctrination from misogyny, the problematic men, specifically the 50-year-old men that we're talking about, they're going to try and they're going to try to drown out their voices by bullying, harassment, belittling them, or using misogynistic or internalized misogynistic statements. And it's like that's their life cycle, and it's like they have agreed to live a certain life cycle, adopt a certain life cycle in life, and that's their choice. I'm choosing to not adopt that and participate in that because there is a life outside of these aligning yourself to these strict gender norms. It restricts you from actually being yourself. And I think I'll close on this. I'll go look at the one comment. Hold on, who's this? Good. I like this. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I hear you, Angie, but what I was gonna maybe do another show and tell, but it's like these guys are they're really insecure about seeing women just having fun, like going out at a club, whether they or just sexual selection. They feel like they should have a say in all that, and they're just super uncomfortable. So like, let's see your last sentence. So yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely a piece of this. I agree with this. I just think like I was saying too, like they're also disgruntled. They're low effort men, and they're upset that life is harder today for them. It's hard for everybody. That's the problem. It's not just uniquely for them, but like for the people who are doing the least and trying the least, they're going to be complaining the most. So I think the last statement I'm going to say is this. When you as a manospheric man come out here on a platform, on a message board, on TikTok or whatever, even in public, when you're sitting here complaining about the modern woman, you're just simply telling on yourself. Because as we discovered in some of these previous podcasts, like these men who are complaining about modern women, oh, it's such a coincidence. They're not very competitive men. Oh wow, I wonder how that could affect the kind of dating pool that they're exposed that they have in front of them. Oh, they're impatient. Oh, wow. I wonder how that can have an effect on the type of women that they find attractive or they attract. But it's like, I go back and I want to reiterate the statement. Like, they're telling on themselves because it's like they're only telling their own experience about the women that they find attractive and the women who find them attractive, and maybe the third group of them failing to recognize or accept the women that find them attractive. So it just lets me know that they have a lot of work to do. Just even on, hey, what are the type of women who find you attractive? You should be able to figure that out. But if you have these delusions of grandeur, no, you're not going to figure that out. If you're trying to appease other men, no, you're not going to figure that out. If you're afraid to be yourself, no, you're not going to figure that out. So I'm going to close on that. Is that any guy, any man, any specific black man in America that's crying about dating, you're just telling on yourself, man, because you were set up to win. You have race loyal women, and you find something to cry about. I'm gonna end it on that. Y'all have a good night.